I'd like to call this council meeting to order. Would you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? And gentlemen, please remove your caps in the council chambers. Mr. Jones, would you lead us in the pledge, please? Standing for a moment of silent meditation or prayer. Thank you. For those of you sitting to my right over here, if you smell something funny over there, we had a pipe burst, and where you're sitting was flooded and water ran all weekend. So if you smell anything and want to move to the other side, feel free to do that. All right. This is a reminder that all of us need to speak into our mics clearly so we can be heard. And everyone in the audience, please make sure your phone is on vibrate or airplane mode. And gentlemen, I want to remind you that while you're in this council chambers, you need to remove your caps or your skull caps. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Angie, would you do a roll call vote, please? Roll call, please.
Councilman Holtz.
Present.
Councilman Curry.
Here.
Councilwoman King.
Here.
Councilman Mishler.
Present.
Councilman Fish.
Here.
Councilwoman Hines.
Here.
Councilman Crabtree.
Here.
Councilman Hanky.
Here.
President Dawson.
Present. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of March 4th, 2024 council meeting?
So move.
Got a motion by Mr. Crabtree, second by Ms. Hines. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Are there any presentations or introductions? There are none. Unfinished business. There are no reports of the council committee. Proposed ordinance 24, on second reading, proposed ordinance 24-0-6. Would you please read this by title only, please?
Proposed ordinance 24-0-06, an ordinance amending various sections of the Elkhart Code of Ordinances to authorize a policy for voluntary transfer of vacation time for employees experiencing medical emergencies, to authorize a policy to permit their limited carryover of unused vacation time, to authorize a policy reinstating rehired employees within the city's vacation structure at pre-separation levels, and to authorize a policy regulating the vacation time for policy-level employees.
Okay, can I have a motion to replace 24-0-06 with 24-0-06R in its entirety?
Second.
Got a motion by Mr. Hinkie, second by Mr. Mishler. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Angie, would you read proposed ordinance 24-0-06R by title, please?
Proposed ordinance 24-0-06-R, an ordinance amending various sections of the Elkhart Code of Ordinances to authorize a policy for the voluntary transfer of vacation time for employees experiencing medical emergencies, to authorize a policy to permit limited carryover of unused vacation time, to authorize a policy reinstating rehired employees within the city's vacation structure at pre-separation levels, and to authorize a policy regulating the vacation time for policy level and other key employees.
I get a motion and a second to adopt this ordinance on second reading.
moved.
Got a
Second.
motion and a second got a motion by Mr. Hinkie, second by Ms. Hines. Before we move forward with discussion, there's some minor amendments that need to be made. So, Mr. Mishler.
Thank you. On page 8 of 10, in section 8, it reads, elected officials otherwise provided by law shall be entitled to vacation time in the manner and form otherwise established for employees of the city. I would like this sentence to be stricken from the ordinance and the ordinance amended as such.
There's a motion, there's a second.
Second.
Second. Council discussion. Mr. Hinkie.
Could you explain what the rationale, please?
To my understanding, elected officials have never received vacation time, and this section is a holdover from the previous policy.
Very good, thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I need our HR person to step forward. Please
Good
sit.
evening, Council. Wayne Belak, Director of Human Resources.
All right. Would you speak to the amendments?
Sure.
That we're-
So in addition to the amendment just made, a couple other items the administration is requesting the council to amend. And the purpose of these is basically, one of the themes is to recruit and retain employees for the city of Elkhart to provide the best services to citizens. So in addition to being a recruiting tool, some of the items in this vacation ordinance are also a retention tool. We've had situations where employees have gone to other employers because of either vacation or benefits or some of those issues. So this would address that. So the amendment, the first one would be in the whereas clause, excuse me, at the bottom of page 3, second last line. So in addition to saying substantially impairs the city's ability to recruit, it would also add the words and retain individuals from the limited pool of highly experienced and qualified individuals. The second amendment is.
Why don't we do it one at a time?
Okay.
Could I get a motion and a second to adopt that amendment?
Second.
I got a motion by Mrs. Hines, second by Mr. Fish. Council discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right.
Okay, thank you. The second one is on page 4 in the second whereas clause, and it's consistent with what the council just did. In order to authorize the mayor to establish not only the initial benefit, but also just the word vacation benefit by striking the word initial for certain exempt policy level employees. So it would strike the word initial and it would add the word certain before the word exempt.
Which word? What's the word?
It would strike the word initial and it would add the word certain before the word exempt. So it'll read, authorize the mayor to establish the vacation benefit for certain exempt policy level employees.
I get a motion? I got a motion by Mrs. Hines, second by Mr. Fish. Council discussion. Mr. Hinkie.
I'm not sure that the mayor is the authorizing party under Indiana labor law and all of its unions to establish certain vacation benefits for exempt. How would that work?
So this would apply to non-union employees with the city, the
Okay,
ordinance.
so are you suggesting that the mayor could add vacation time for those folks?
Yeah, that gets to the later portion of the ordinance, the existing ordinance that was this previously in there, and it would enable the mayor to add vacation time for employees subject to the limitations in the ordinance.
So would that not be, that's not budget neutral, right? Because you're adding a new cost with a higher vacation allotment?
There would be additional vacation days. It would
With
not
a-
increase
with a higher
salary of
cost.
well, the salary for the employees would be the same.
So more days off, same,
Correct.
thank you.
Mr. Fish.
So this would only be for employees that the mayor has direct responsibility for.
Right. In paragraph 7, which begins on page 7 of the ordinance, there's another proposed amendment that would be there, but basically, this applies to employees who are exempt, who are policy level employees, and/or employees who have a professional license issued by the state of Indiana, such as attorneys, engineers, CPAs. So that's the limited number of people this would apply to.
We're looking to possibly retain employees that have vital, specific jobs that it would be hard to maintain in any job market, correct?
Correct. It's for recruiting and retention
Yeah.
purposes, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hickey?
So Wayne, where is that spelled out? The limitation of employees that they are CPAs, attorneys?
Sure. It's in section 7. There's a number of subparts to that.
What
So,
page- what page is that?
on page 7 of 10 of the ordinance, toward the bottom of the page. So it says, and there's going to be a proposed amendment there, but it's for the type of employees this applies to. They're classified as both exempt under the Fair Labor Standards Act and considered policy level under state and federal law. That's the one qualification. Or be a key professional position defined as a position requiring specialized expertise demonstrated by professional licensure issued by the state of Indiana, required for the performance of the duties for which the employee is employed by the city, such as an engineer, certified public accountant, or attorney.
Yeah, and I, just as a follow-up, I'm suggesting that we get a little bit more specific because it's quite subjective. In some licensing areas may be required or not required, and what level of certificate or license or degree. Could we not name actual positions, thereby it's limited to chief counsel, attorneys? I mean, I don't know if you go to payroll clerks, because some of them might have HRMs. I'm not sure who it all includes. I guess based on who the mayor is, it could be a very subjective term. How can we box it in so it doesn't grow?
Well, they would be contained in the job description, which is determined by the administration. It's required for the performance of the duties. So, for example, if I happen to be an engineer as head of HR, that's not required for the performance of my duties. Attorneys in the legal department, that would be required. Engineers in public works, that probably would be required.
So if you have policy-making levels, quite honestly, I'm an educated person, and I'm not exactly sure by state regulation, what does that mean? What is a policy-making person?
So a policy level employee is an appointee that, and this has been defined by the courts, but basically has an influence in recommending important policy decisions to the mayor. They are appointees of the mayor, and they would fulfill that type of role.
Yeah, and that's kind of the area that I have difficulty, because a lot of people can influence mayors and influence, and they can have influence, whether it's qualified influence or not. It just seems like we're getting out of a box that most anybody could, in their own right, qualify, and that's what I'm trying to get away from.
I think the ordinance refers to, as defined by state and federal law, and I guess without getting into the weeds too much, there is case law which defines what that term means. So I think that would address the concerns you have that the definition would be too broad, because it's going to be limited to what those definitions are. So it's not somebody who simply talks to the mayor and says, I think we should have a stop sign on that corner or something like that.
So do we have an idea of how many employees this could include at this moment?
As far as a number, I'm not sure the number, but it would include, the executive cabinet level people, but not, necessarily every department head or thing of that nature.
So it's department directors on up, somewhere up there?
Probably more on the up there part, the executive team. Yes, and then the professional component of it would be the engineers and the attorneys, and the CPA, who would be the controller, is also covered as a policymaker.
So
So
they are
yeah.
2-year, 4-year, or 6-year engineers, and
Right, if they're licensed by the state and that licensure is required to perform their duties, then that would be a prerequisite for that.
thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none.
The next, well, the other,
We're still on this amendment.
oh, okay, I'm sorry.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, then consistent with what we just did in the whereas clauses on page 7, there'd be an amendment in the first line of section 7, where it says, notwithstanding section B3 above, the vacation time in the first year of employment, the phrase in the first year of employment would be stricken. That would be the amendment there.
I get a motion and a second? Got a motion from Mrs. Hines, second from Mr. Fish. Council discussion. Mr. Hinkie?
So striking that allows what? People in their first year of employment, how did that just change?
That allows additional vacation to be awarded in order to prevent employees from leaving.
In their first year of employment?
Well, who qualify under that previous section. So, for example, if they have, the minimum number of vacation days and there's a concern or desire to retain that employee, this would enable the ability to award additional vacation time subject to the limitations below. The max that can be awarded is 4 weeks.
So we just took out in the first year of employment. So
Right.
how did that change the outcome?
So that means it's not just when they become an employee, it could affect existing people.
Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
And then the final one is on the next page, page 8, about 10 lines down, the little letter I, for the same reason where it says the initial vacation, let me go up further. It says, shall be determined by the mayor, subject to the limitations of this subsection. The initial vacation benefit may be at higher than first tier level. So the phrase, subject to the limitations of this subsection, the initial benefit may be, would be stricken, so that it'll read, shall be determined by the mayor at or higher than the first tier level prescribed for the first year city employees.
Need a motion?
Second?
Motion by Mrs. Hines, second by Mr. Fish. Council discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, sir.
Yes, that's it as far as the amendment.
That's it, yes, at this point. I need a motion to adopt this ordinance as amended. Got a motion by Mr. Mishler, second by Mr. Fish. Council discussion. Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Open it up to the public. Is there anyone in the public who would like to speak regards this ordinance? Yes, sir.
Matthew Mayer, resident, business owner.
Speak up, raise the mic so we can hear you, sir. Thank you.
Matthew Mayer, I'm a resident and business owner. I just had a question. When it comes to unused vacation time, is that rolled over? Is that lost? Is it paid out?
First
Maybe
of all,
a question to ask.
He can get with you and answer that. We just get your public comment.
Okay.
Our HR person can answer right there behind you. He can answer that question for you. Any other comments? Seeing none, we turn it back to the council floor. Any other council discussion? Mr. Hinkie.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'll probably be the only non-consenting vote here. This thing gives too much wide berth. I worry about this deputy getting it, that one not getting it, and the clash in between. So I understand you may want to retain, it just has to be done in legal format according to Indiana labor law of non-represented persons. And I just think this gives too much of a giveaway, and it is not budget neutral.
Thank you. Any other council discussion? Mr. Mishler.
Thank you. I as well have some concerns related to this. For folks who weren't, there was a lot of discussion there. Essentially, this ordinance would allow the mayor to bring in department heads or professionals to fill in positions who wouldn't necessarily come work for the city. It would authorize the mayor to give them more vacation time in order to come and work for the city. It would also authorize him to retain employees by, in case another job offer came up in another municipality or the private sector, to say, instead of leaving, we'll give you more vacation time so you can stay and continue your service to the city. However, I have to echo Councilman Henkie's statement. I feel like this could cause significant friction within the department, and the language isn't defined enough to narrow down who it qualifies and who doesn't qualify.
Thank you. Any other? Mr. Curry.
I'd just like to say that we do have instances of people leaving the city for better opportunities, and I think we have to make sure we remain competitive in this labor market.
Thank you. Mr. Curry, Mr. Hinkie.
You can get us mixed up a lot.
No, I really don't.
Yeah, that. I'm not so sure about that, Councilman Curry. Our turnover of the city has been very low in most positions. I think to qualify that statement, we should have turnover rates. Because if I would look at the budgetary mechanisms, we have so many benefits undefined outside of salary, which includes tools and fitness, agility pay, longevity pay besides the annual increases. We've got pay on top of pay. And frankly, if you've come into a position of our city, you've probably been in a similar municipal position. You know the regular pay and the pay amounts. In fact, in this city, you're most likely in those capacities to have a car available to you as well, besides travel and education and all of those things. So I think this is a little bit much. I would rather have this seen as a negotiation tool through the HR department. I don't want to have a mayor of the current mayor or any future mayor get involved in, this one I know better, that one I prefer, this one I really don't. I just think we're out of line on this. And nothing against mayors and anything like that. I just think this is a bit of a reach and very subjective in nature. And thank you for your comments, Aaron. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none. Angie, would you do a roll call vote on adoption of this ordinance on second reading?
Councilman Holtz.
Yes.
Councilman Curry.
Yes.
Councilwoman King.
Yes.
Councilman Mishler.
No.
Councilman Fish.
Yes.
Councilwoman Hines.
Yes.
Councilman Crabtree.
Yes.
Councilman Hanky. President Dawson.
Abstain. Could I get a motion to pass this ordinance, read it by title only, Angie, and then get a motion to pass it on third reading? Can I have a motion?
Purpose behind the abstention? When called upon?
Pardon?
The purpose behind the abstention? I don't understand.
Okay. I mean, what do you want to know why I abstained?
Yeah, I just
My
didn't.
wife works for the city.
Wasn't
Okay,
yours?
could I get a motion to adopt this on third and final reading?
So move.
Motion by Mr. Curry. Second by Mr. Fish. Angie, would you read this by title only and do a roll call vote, please?
Proposed ordinance 24-0-06-R, an ordinance amending various sections of the Elkhart Code of Ordinances to authorize a policy for voluntary transfer of vacation time for employees experiencing medical emergencies, to authorize a policy to permit the limited carryover of unused vacation time, to authorize a policy reinstating rehired employees within the city's vacation structure at pre-separation levels, and to authorize a policy regulating the vacation time for policy level and other key employees. Councilman Holtz.
Yes.
Councilman Curry.
Yes.
Councilwoman King. Councilman Mishler.
No.
Councilman Fish.
Yes.
Councilwoman Hines.
Yes.
Councilman Crabtree.
Yes.
Councilman Hanky.
No.
President Dawson.
Abstain.
So it passes 7 to
6
2
to
with
1
one
abstention.
abstention.
Thank you. Moving on, we have no ordinances and resolutions referred to committee. We have no table ordinances and resolutions. Would you please read on first reading, proposed ordinance 24-0-07, please?
Proposed ordinance 24-0-07, an ordinance appropriating $400,000 from the American Rescue Plan Corona Local Fiscal Recovery Fund for the emergency restoration of the portion of Grace Lawn Cemetery at the Elkhart River riverbank.
If there are no objections, I'll pass this on to second reading. Okay. Would you read proposed ordinance 24-0-08 by title, please?
Proposed ordinance 24-0-08, an ordinance appropriating $937,363 of MACOG grant money from the Local Income Tax Special Distribution Fund for the Bristol Street Widening Project.
If there are no objections, I'll pass this on to second reading. Would you read proposed ordinance 24-0-09 by title, please?
Proposed ordinance 24-0-09, an ordinance repealing Elkhart City Ordinance Number 5849, Best Development CPUD, and rezoning the same Planned Unit Development District R4 Multiple Family Dwelling District standards.
There are no objections. I'll pass this on to second reading. Would you read proposed ordinance 24-0-10, please?
Proposed ordinance 24-0-10, an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Elkhart, Indiana, authorizing the issuance of the City of Elkhart Indiana taxable income economic development revenue bonds and approving and authorize other actions in respect thereto.
Can I get a motion and a second to adopt this resolution?
Second.
Got a motion by Ms. Hines, second by Mr. Fish for adoption of this resolution.
We're on first read for this one.
Passed on to second reading.
So,
Draw my,
Withdraw my motion.
all right, we'll pass that on to second reading. Now we're on to the resolutions. Please read proposed resolution 24-R-06, please.
Proposed resolution 24-R-06, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of Elkhart, Indiana, confirming resolution number R-05-24, which declared a certain area in the City of Elkhart to be an economic revitalization area for the purpose of granting tax phase-in benefits for SCG Acquisitions Company, LLC, DBA Speed Grip Chuck Company, and Swanee Precision Holdings, LLC.
Motion to adopt this resolution. That a
So moved.
second. Motion by Mr. Mishler, second by Mr. Fish. Mr. Huber.
Good evening, Mike Huber, Director of Development Services, City of Elkhart. Last meeting, we approved the waiver of noncompliance and the declaratory resolution for the tax phase-in for the Speed Grip Chuck Company, sorry. This is the confirmatory resolution. The following resolution would be the MOA.
Questions for Mr. Huber? Thank you. Is there anyone in the public who would like to speak with regards to this resolution? Seeing none, I'll return it back to the council. I'm sorry, Mr. Hinkie.
Yeah, I won't be supporting 06 or 07. We've had too many bending of rules, state rules, in regards to abatements, and I'm unwilling to keep doing that. This has not been a clean process. It's sad. I don't want to penalize the company, but this communication has to improve.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
I'd just like to take a minute to clarify. We haven't bent the rules. We're doing exactly what the statute allows.
I'm sorry, but we've never done it before in the
Angie,
history
would
of our
you do a
city.
roll call vote on the adoption of this resolution, please?
Councilman Holtz.
Yes.
Councilman Curry.
Yes.
Councilwoman King.
Yes.
Councilman Mishler.
Aye.
Councilman Fish.
yes.
Councilwoman Hines.
Yes.
Councilman Crabtree.
Yes.
Councilman Hanky. President Dawson.
Aye.
Passes 8-1.
Would you read proposed resolution 24-R-07 by title, please?
Proposed resolution 24-R-07, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of Elkhart, Indiana, to approve the memorandum of agreement between SCG Acquisitions Company, LLC, DBA Speed Grip Chuck Company, and Swanee Precision Holdings, LLC.
Thank you. Can I get a motion and a second to adopt this resolution?
So moved.
A motion by Mr. Fish,
Second.
second by Ms. King. Council discussion. None. Open it up to the public. As Mr. Huber stated, this is a co-resolution with 06. Is that correct? Okay. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak with regards to this resolution? Seeing none, we'll turn it back to the council floor. Any other council discussion? Mr. Hanky.
Again, as mentioned in the original meeting, we've had 5 or 6 different times. Planning has come to us and asked for changes and amendments and considerations. This has been the highest point in my 20 years that this has occurred, and my suggestion is we have communication gaps. And my point is we need to solve that problem as opposed to continued amendments.
Thank you. Any other council discussion? Seeing none, Angie, would you do a roll call vote, please?
Councilman Holtz.
Yes.
Councilman Curry.
Yes.
Councilwoman King.
Yes.
Councilman Mishler.
Aye.
Councilman Fish.
Yes.
Councilwoman Hines.
Yes.
Councilman Crabtree.
Yes.
Councilman Hanky. President Dawson.
Aye.
Passes 8-1.
Thank you. Would you read proposed resolution 24-R-08 by title, please?
Proposed resolution 24-R-08, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of Elkhart, Indiana, approving the lease of a portion of the Concord Mall real estate by the Elkhart Department of Redevelopment in furtherance of the Consolidated South Elkhart Economic Development Redevelopment Area Plan.
I get a motion and a second to adopt this resolution.
So move.
Got a motion by Mr. Curry, second by Mr. Fish. Mr. Huber.
So you all may remember last fall, the Elkhart Redevelopment Commission approved an allocation of $2 million from the South Consolidated TIF to support the acquisition and redevelopment of the former Concord Mall property by Industrial Commercial Properties, LLC. This was the first commitment made as part of a $5 million total investment by the City Council and the Redevelopment Commission, which also included a 5-year tax phase-in estimated to provide a $2 million benefit and $1 million forgivable loan. The City Council approved the tax phase-in and the forgivable loan, and the RDC executed a development and loan agreement to define the terms of the investment. Industrial Commercial Properties has committed to a $25 to $30 million total investment in the acquisition, demolition, and redevelopment of the existing mall structure, creating between 200 and 500 new jobs. The development plan also calls for future commercial and residential outlot development that could result in as much as an additional $65 to $90 million. During the approval of the development and loan agreement, Industrial Commercial Properties cited the significant asbestos remediation costs, along with substantial costs associated with public improvements related to water utility hookups, installation of landscaping and berming to screen the adjacent property uses from in the adjacent residential neighborhoods, parking lot reconstruction, and vehicular circulation improvements. Industrial Commercial Properties provided the Redevelopment Commission with a preliminary scope of the public improvements they plan to undertake, which amounted to a total demolition and construction cost exceeding the RDC's $2 million commitment. At its March 12th meeting earlier this month, the Redevelopment Commission approved a lease of the parking lot area in the amount of $2 million committed by the Commission last fall. The lease secures a public interest in the property as a means to facilitate the developer's construction of the parking lot improvements based on the scope that will be presented and approved by the RDC. The 5-year term of the lease is in alignment with the terms of the 5-year forgivable loan and the 5-year phase-in included as part of the development agreement that was approved by the council last fall. A copy of the lease agreement and the amendment to the development agreement were provided to the council in your packet. We do have representation from Industrial Commercial Properties attending virtually. At this time, I'd like to ask, I think Keith is online, just to give you guys a little bit of an update on the progress of the project since last fall when this was approved.
I turned your mic on. Still can't hear you.
How about now?
There you go. There we're cooking.
Good evening, Council. So I want to give everyone a quick update. We closed on the property on September 30th of last year. So we're about 5.5 months into the project. We have been actively under construction. Some of those improvements you could see on the exterior, part you can see on the interior. As Mike mentioned, we had a significant dilapidated building that we inherited. We had close to $2 million of asbestos remediation that already occurred in the building. We have to date committed to almost $20 million of costs that we have already committed to pay for the project. When we inherited the project, we were roughly 20% occupied, and that really just included the 3 retail tenants, Hobby Lobby, ABC, and Pippin Dental. I'm proud to state to date that in 5.5 months, the committed tenants that we have for this project right now is around 78%. As I presented in front of council, this was our 8th mall that we've taken on. The lease up at this project has been the fastest that we have seen across the country. And I think it speaks about the market fundamentals that we experienced in Elkhart and why we were so bullish on the state and the city. We have locked in operators that were not even looking in the city of Elkhart, one based in Chicago, another one that was targeting South Bend. So we are, our first occupant will be taking occupancy in July of this year in about 150,000 square feet. And we have 2 other occupants that we will look to take occupancy of September. So from that standpoint, we look to just shy of 80% in terms of our committed, which we are ecstatic about, and well ahead of the stabilization that we presented in front of council last year, where we thought that would be closer to a 2-year stabilization. So we are well up on pace for that. On terms of the surrounding periphery, we have just committed to buy more land on Mishawaka. So we are purchasing another 1.6 acres to be contiguous with the master plan that we had programmed. We have started negotiations right now with multifamily developers. That is going very smooth. As it relates to what can be witnessed from the exterior, I think everyone's probably noticed a difference, as we say it would happen immediately, that we needed to change the narrative immediately. We have already done a lot of work on the exterior, and we will start doing all of the entrances as these tenants start taking occupancy here later in the year. We are starting our retail component. So if you remember from that, we have a master plan that has an additional 4 out parcels on Main Street. We are going to start taking those to market additionally. So overall, the project has been a huge success from my ICP standpoint. We're on target for our job creation, target for our spend, ahead of schedule as it relates to stabilization. Unfortunately, we're not under on cost. The costs are exactly what we thought they would be in terms of the overall spend. But the project to date, as I mentioned, has been going very well from an ICP standpoint. We're excited to get this to stabilization and really start creating the catalyst for future growth in the surrounding area.
Thank you, Keith. We're available for any additional questions.
Mr. Hinkie.
The expansion of property on Mishawaka Road, is that currently within city limits, do we know?
Yeah, I believe it is. I think it's the former movie theater property.
Oh, so it's not Mishawaka Road, it's the middle road.
Well, that's Mishawaka Road.
Is it really? All right. And then do we have a projection of gross property taxes for 2025? Do we have a pro forma at all with
I know we're
projected
waiting for the estimated assessments from the assessor's office.
But when this project was brought forward, was there a projection made just?
We based something off of we based the abatement incentives off of the spend on the investment, looking at what that might generate in terms of increment.
But that
in the
full
assessment.
property then is not exempt from property taxes.
That's correct. It's not
Okay.
exempt. It is 100% tax.
Okay, good. And then if you would help me understand, when this was first presented to us, and this is really for Mr. Huber, it was considered to be a financial gap filler. And then we came to a lease of parking lot, and then it was mentioned a repair of parking lot in addition to, and other amenities. So I'm just trying to make sure that I don't make a mistake here. So the $2 million, that is the lease and the repair of the parking lot combined.
So the $2 million is the upfront cost of the lease for the 5-year term. The $2 million is used by them to do the scope of work. Correct.
That's not an additional $2 million.
Correct. No, it's just
That's
the same
a single
$2
$2 million.
That's correct.
And there is no gap filler, right? That's all been in that same $2 million.
This is the same. This is the same commitment that was made, and this is just refining and defining the vehicle by which the funds are delivered.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Thank you, Mr. Huber. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak with regard to this resolution? Seeing none, we turn it back to the council floor. Any other council discussion? Seeing none. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Curry.
No, I'd just like to thank Keith for moving so fast on this project, and of course in the 5th District, and as that next time you're in town, if you could, we'd like to take a tour with you.
We would love to. I'm there at least bi-weekly. So next time I'm in, I will put an invite, and we'd love to show the interior of the work that we've done. And again, just reiterate the master plan. It's exciting to see everything take effect. And it's going to be fantastic as this whole project is built out.
Hey, thank you.
You're welcome.
Angie, would you do a roll call vote on adoption of this resolution, please?
Councilman Holtz.
Yes.
Councilman Curry.
Yes.
Councilwoman King.
Yes.
Councilman Mishler.
Aye.
Councilman Fish.
Yes.
Councilwoman Hines.
Yes.
Councilman Crabtree.
Yes.
Councilman Hanky.
Aye.
President Dawson.
Aye.
Passes 9-0.
Thank you. There are no vacation hearings. Other new business. New business. Ms. Hines, I'm sorry.
Yeah, as the council liaison to the Elkhart Housing Authority, The director, Angelia Washington, executive director, couldn't be here this evening. She's out of town on a training, but she sent a letter, and I will send it to Angie so she can give it to all the council. But I'd like to read it, share some of her thoughts. Dear City of Elkhart Common Council, as the executive director of the Elkhart Housing Authority, I strongly condemn disparaging and unfounded comments regarding public housing in our community. Such remarks departure harmful stereotypes that can be discouraging to public housing residents who seek pathways out of poverty. The Elkhart Housing Authority is committed to ensuring the safety and well-being of all residents. All Elkhart Housing Authority applicants are met with stringent criminal background checks, and all residents who are found guilty of criminal activity in a court of law are evicted. We recognize the importance of collaboration with law enforcement to address criminal activity, as evidenced by the following successful safety and security grants that we most recently received. Fiscal year 2022 Capital Fund Emergency Safety and Service Security Grant was $241,000. Waterfall High Rise funds went toward the installation of a new perimeter fence, replace all exterior doors along with glazing and storefront, replace 2 interior firewall doors, and install an additional 7 security cameras. Fiscal year 2020 Capital Fund Emergency Safety and Security Grant, $518,000 for Waterfall High Rise. Funds went toward Waterfall Elevator Modernization Project. Fiscal year 2019 Capital Fund Emergency Safety and Security Grant, $41,000, Rosedale High Rise, Washington Gardens, Waterfall High Rise, scatter sites. Funds went toward installation of carbon monoxide detectors at Rosedale High Rise, Washington Gardens, Waterfall High Rise, and scattered sites. And then the fiscal year of 2016 Fund Emergency Safety and Security Grant, $250,000, Washington Gardens. Funds went toward installation of exterior security cameras, system, and associated electrical work throughout the Washington Gardens apartments and installation of interior cameras at the community center. Demonetizing entire communities does not contribute to constructive solutions. I believe in a collaborative, proactive approach to providing a better quality of life for historical, underserved, and marginalized public housing residents. This includes the Elkhart Housing Authority's partnerships with Minority Health Coalition of Elkhart County, Black Expo, the Indiana State of Health's dual program, and the Elkhart Police Department, all of which has offices at 312 Wagner Avenue, located in Washington Gardens, and all of which provide critical services to immediate and surrounding communities. We also house Horizon Educational Alliance, HEA, in our main office as a resource to help public housing residents attain higher education. 2 Elkhart Housing Authority programs that I am passionate about are our Family Self-Sufficient and Home Ownership programs, which are designed to help poor people move up and out of subsidized housing. Enhanced police training, community engagement, like the programming at the Tosin Center, and investment in job opportunities for residents will go a long way toward making positive impacts on public housing residents' lives. We also encourage local business owners to invest in these neighborhoods and partner with us on job training and placement programs. Additionally, I urge all policymakers to consider the systematic issues at play, including the disproportionate impact of poverty and lack of resources in certain neighborhoods. It is imperative that we work together as a community to uplift and support all residents, rather than perpetuating device rhetoric that only serves to further marginalize vulnerable populations. I remain committed to fostering a safe and inclusive environment for all residents of Elkhart. Sincerely, Angelia Washington, Executive Director of the Elkhart Housing Authority. And as the liaison to that commission, I share every word that she put into this. And I encourage us as a community, as elected officials on this council and our administration to continue with these efforts to work with all of our residents throughout the city with our projects and with things that are happening in their neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Henke.
I have several, but first, I had a couple of things I wanted to address, and I'm sure I'm the focus of this, and I appreciate that, quite honestly, because I had mentioned Washington Gardens and Riverview High Rise specifically. None of the others,
It's
but.
Riverside.
Sorry?
Riverside.
Riverside, thank you for that. And I'll tell you why. So I did come in contact with a female undergoing some drug transaction. We called 911 on her behalf. She had recently left a medical facility, and when intervening, we actually called police as well. And we were told by this individual that she obtained her drugs at Riverside High-Rise Apartment number 206, if you want to be exact, and that anything you would want, you could get there. And that was with the lady that was with her as well. So I started looking into that part, and when we called police said, yeah, sorry, but that's how it works. That's where you go. You can access most anything you want. So if you look at HUD, it has three primary things that affect us here. No felons, no guns, no drugs. But honestly, no enforcement. So we don't see that. If you would look at, and I appreciate the emotional response, but what we didn't get was, sorry, I have the floor. What we didn't get was how many police recordings to any one of those addresses for what reason. That's measurable. That takes the emotion out of it. And how do you protect the most vulnerable people? By turning your head against what is right in front of us. We know that. People tell us. But if you want to choose the other way to look, then we won't address it and it won't get fixed. So look at, we wanted a substation there. There was a major paper interview when two people beat up a wheelchaired individual to take whatever he had in his hands. It's not absent of its problems, but the only way we're going to fix it is to identify it, point it out, and go after it. That's the bottom line. So there are several things that other cities have done. Elkhart chooses not to. One, public crime trackers. Why don't we have crime trackers like Mishawaka and South Bend? So you can look at a neighborhood and it's going to tell you how many crimes of what category are in those locations. What's the problem with knowing this information so we can address and attempt to correct as a community? But we don't do that. We circle the wagons and we want to leave it alone and hope that everybody in there has a better chance than some others have demonstrated. There are also shots fired monitoring. I know that we have looked at it as a city. Bradley Veit had brought it forward. So other communities have them. You stick it outside and it will tell you basically locations of shots fired. So we can have EMS and police faster responding to, but it was felt to be discriminatory in nature. I don't know what is discriminatory about shots fired in anybody's neighborhood, but I'd rather address it most specifically. So that's what I'm really interested in. So if you want to talk about solutions, yeah, that's where I'm going from. I don't want to hear about all the money we spent about fire alarms and those things. Those are mandatory and obligatory. What I want to know about is your bylaws say no felons. Your bylaws say no guns. Your bylaws say no drugs, and you have all three. What are you doing about that? So that's that part. The next part I would like, Bradley, if you could help me with, was in regards to the amphitheater and the amount of money in all forms spent on trying to get the amphitheater up and going. As a sitting council member, I never heard about the $30, $40, $50 million that the city was requested to send that direction. Never heard that in the presentations I had from AMP. But I do know that the city has put more than $150,000 in through redevelopment commission. And we don't approve that, of course, but I'm wondering what we were spending on and why the lack of transparency in the money transfers that were expected in this project. I'm surprised that I got surprised by a newspaper ad talking about it. And then, you know, we talk about, and I appreciate the latitude in this one, Mr. President. Normally, I'm not given this because I do want to point out that we can't ask about the public can't ask about us. This is their meeting. You conduct a meeting for the flow, but not the content. But I also am opposed to the in red, the 3-minute limit on public comments. I think their comments are the most important comments we can have. So I would ask us to reconsider that measure, if you would.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Mishler.
Thank you. First, I want to congratulate one of our firefighters, Corey Brewer, who recently went through smoke diver training, which is quite intense training from everything I've heard. Of the 47 people who started that class, he was one of 15 who graduated. So I want to commend him for his hard work. He makes all of us in our community proud. Second, I had some folks reach out from the Feral Cat Coalition wanting to work with our community to try to address that situation. Other communities, Goshen, Mishawaka, South Bend, they are partners with the program and have had success, and I request that we look into that. Regarding the amphitheater situation, I was not at the executive session due to an injury. However, I was briefed on the discussion there, and that is when we had a presentation with those numbers regarding the amphitheater. And I understand, Councilman Henke, you were not there, but I encourage the executive session. Unfortunately, I can't comment on why you weren't there, only on the contents of the information that was provided to us. Speaking briefly on the other matter, working as a nurse, I know that the best way to treat a problem is to not treat its symptoms, but to treat the root cause of an illness. So I hope we continue to work together as a community, all sides of the community, to address drug addiction, affordable housing, mental health, and other issues that continue to affect our community and many other communities in this great nation of ours. Thank you.
Ms. King.
Thank you. I'd like to make a comment on the social media post, and the question was asked, did you know Washington Garden and Waterfall Housing are the biggest drug houses in Elkhart? They take our earnings to live there and then, but dope to live on, and question why the kids end up in jail. The easiest access to drugs is in the government housing. Did you know? Where are the rules, laws, investigations? So when I first read the social media post, the first thing that came to my mind was that I hope no child who lives there would read this post, and their parent included. And the reason why I say that, because as a child, my mother, father, and sister lived in the Malcolm Drive public housing, and I had no idea the label attached to it. All I knew was that I enjoyed my childhood and my neighbors there. And we also had a babysitter in Washington Gardens. So perhaps drugs were there, like it is everywhere else in the city. It doesn't matter where you live. I'm not just speaking for the adults that live in public housing. I'm speaking on the behalf of the children that have no idea of their geographical location or other people's perception of their living quarters, only that it is a place they call home. And most of the residents in Washington Gardens are just in transition, just like my family was at the time. I can tell you now that I would have been devastated if I had known what I know now from social media. The phrase, "sticks and stones may break my bones, but words would never hurt me," is a lie. Words can pierce you sharper than a knife and last a lifetime. I take this post personal because often parents and their children do not choose where they live. Public housing provides a stable environment social media can make it hard to reverse a negative trajectory over a whole area. And social media travels at a rate no one can control and can attract just one wrong person. It's my belief that such a post as this would warrant our city to be looked at as an area that can be easily infiltrated. So I'm proud to share Washington Gardens has been included in my neighborhood association from the beginning in the 6th District. And I would like to thank our police department and the Housing Authority for working together to provide a space within Washington Gardens for residents to build a stronger community relationship.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Curry.
To follow those comments, I try to find solutions to every situation in my district, in the whole city, and the Lord has blessed me to know some young people that live in Washington Gardens. And when I met these young men, I've hired them to work for me around my house. I pay them well. I talk to them about the issues. 2 of them even came to this council meeting to visit. And I told them, make sure you tell your teacher that you were here because you've done something that many people have never done before. And then during the campaign, I introduced them to all the Democrats and say, we need to help these young people earn honest dollars. And they did a lot of door-to-door for a lot of people that's sitting here now because of their victory. And these young people need us. They like it when they can stop by my house and visit. They don't need an invitation. But we can make a difference with young people where they don't have to get involved in drugs. You know, I'm proud to say I've never used drugs. And I tell that to young people. You don't have to follow the crowd. Most people have. I was looking at the statistics on TV the other day, the high number of Americans that have tried marijuana. Well, I'm not one of them. And that's right, and I'm proud of that. And I tell these young men, you don't have to be one of them. Because you're following the crowd if you're one of them. And you definitely don't have to sell dope because you can earn money. And I was waiting on them to come to my house last week to do some work. They were down there raking the neighbor's yard, earning more money. And I'm proud of these guys. They've come a long way since I met them 3-4 years ago. And they do live in Washington Gardens. And I just hope that they have a bright future because of what we do to reach out to help them.
Thank you. Any other comments? Mr. Hinkie.
I appreciate that. That's probably the best response. I would also say that I work with some single moms that live at Washington Gardens, and I work with them every day. And the sad part is, I would like to know how many days would go by that they would not hear gunfire. And there's not many. So if that's the new routine for that area, we cannot accept that as normal. I don't want to normalize gunfire in anyone's neighborhood. But I am saying, even though we can't control as a community private homes all the time, this is a HUD property. HUD has restrictions. They could monitor. And it's not like we can turn a blind eye and said that we have not been asked by multiple administrations, multiple police chiefs to put substations there for a reason. Come on. What I'm saying is, when are we going to draw the line in the sand and do something to change it? Shots fired cannot be normalized.
Thank you.
But we have shots fired.
One of the things we need to be cognizant of as elected officials is how we go on social media and represent our community. Please. And we do. Social media is a two-edged sword. You can advertise great things on social media. You can give out great information on social media. You can put a bunch of lies on social media as well. You can be somebody else on Facebook. You can make up a name. But when you go to attacking people, giving out people's addresses, taking up pictures of people's houses, and posting it out there, that's just not safe. I mean, most of us have somebody at home, you know, that's not involved in this political atmosphere, that because they're a family or a spouse, they get attacked by what they read that's not necessarily true. So I think we just need to be cognizant of it as elected officials to give out good information, truthful information, and as often as possible, positive information. we're not always going to agree, but I would venture 80 to 90% of the time, we vote pretty much in a majority. And so we're representing citizenry that needs to see that. So it's so easy to be negative, so easy. Unfortunately, it sells newspapers, all right? And that's what happens. So we just, as elected officials, need to be cognizant of putting out factual, truthful information. Thank you. Reports of Mayor, Board of Works, Board of Safety, Department heads.
Thank you, Council. I really wasn't going to comment on this subject, and but I think it's necessary. The reason why is that, for the most part, I'm the target of Mr. Hinkey's comments on social media, which is all fine. I mean, I'm the mayor, got broad shoulders, and for the most part, he stays right on the line of being threatening and abusive.
Mr. Hinkey.
I have the
Mr.
mic
Hinkey,
now.
you're out of order.
I have the mic now. The social media posts that he makes, which are unfounded in relationship to what he just said about the stats, about the data, I didn't hear any. I've talked to my police chief to find out, are we receiving more calls in Washington Gardens and in Lakes, Waterfall, wasn't Riverside, it was Waterfall that he mentioned. And Chief Melanese, who was in the audience, said he hadn't. We will continue to do the right thing as it relates to the protect and serve of our EPD. We actually do have a ShotSpotter mechanism. I believe it's called Raven, right, Chief? And Raven is a system that allows us to be able to locate shots wherever they may lie in the city and where these pieces are monitored. And we have had this for the last 8 months, maybe. All right, Chief? In order to protect the community. And we realize that we're in a realistic environment. We realize that we want to keep all residents safe. But there is no way that we are going to take 1 or 2 complaints and make them across the chasm of everyone's jurisdiction. It's not fair to the community, and most of you have echoed that. But the comments, the inflammatory comments that you made, don't just hit an emotional chord for folk like Councilwoman King, who grew up or had some relationship to housing in that space, but it should echo throughout our entire community. I don't care if you live in the 3rd district or you live in the 5th district. Our city should be working as one. And with respect to the comments that Councilman Dawson made around the addresses, when my address is listed, contextualized by a negative, go and see. My wife lives there. My kids come home. I don't want inflammatory relationships to impact how we should legislate and how we should deal in our community as people, as humans. And so that inflammatory rhetoric goes to the core of a social media policy that I'm hoping that we adopt. Because those comments that he echoed could be perceived as the council's opinion, not just his. And it's so important for our public officials to take the appropriate way to deal with the public, which is why I don't engage it. But until you can speak of receipts, Councilman Hickey, until you can speak of the quantifiable relationships to what he is saying on media, he indicated I had no permits for the work that's been done around my house. I've had an unlicensed contractor. All are not true. I have the permits. It was licensed. There is no reason to feel as though I can't, but I'm not going to do so.
1 minute, 1 minute. Do you have a problem? I mean, when someone is speaking, we ask everybody to be courteous. This is, if you want to speak, you can come to the podium and speak. But while someone is speaking, please be courteous in these council chambers. Thank you.
So with that said, if we want to speak factually, I can take the heat. But until that happens, I would ask that the council employs some type of social media policy that speaks to the way that we should have discourse in this chamber as well as on social media.
No other reports from Chief, you coming this way? Okay.
Dan Milanese, Chief Elkhart Police. I just wanted to make sure that I was able to address some of the things that came up. I know I got asked a couple of things to verify, so I want to make sure that the mayor made a couple of references to me, so I just want to make sure that I clarified some of those points. As far as the gunshot detection system, that's correct. Anywhere from 6 to 8 months ago, we implemented, it's with our Flock, the company Flock, it's a Raven system. And basically it is a gunshot detection system that I believe there was a social media, or not social media, but a press release on that to indicate that we had that. I know that's been some concern. So as far as data and things like that, I appreciate the aspect of, you know, all of it, as well as the data-driven portion of it. So to me, my job here as the police chief is to make sure that all districts are being served and that everybody in the community is being served. So we need to make sure we go to both parts of that, and no matter where you are. So as far as the gunshot detection system, yes, we have that in place. The crime reporting, we do have that in place. It's through LexisNexis. It's CrimeMap, I believe, .com. Give me 1 second, I can let you know. It's communitycrimemap.com. And basically what it is it's a crime mapping system that you can go to and you can zoom in. It's a little rudimentary. One of the issues that we have been struggling with is our data reporting. Former Chief Seymour, for several years of his administration, has been trying to get a new RMS system, which is a records management system. Ours was pretty archaic and outdated. We're trying to go to ProSuite that had its own struggles as far as the project. Not here to get into that. However, we are trying to work now with our current system to see what updates are available and what data we can do to do a better job on crime reporting. But if you zoom in on the map, you can actually see it. I did it when I was in the back. So we do have an option through LexisNexis for some crime reporting. As far as the reporting went, Councilwoman Hines talked about Angelia Washington, Director Washington. We've been very, very fortunate to have a very good relationship with housing. I've been to the board meetings, and we've been very fortunate to work with them, have a good working relationship with them, and make sure that our officers are engaging with any kind of security measures they have. It's been a really great opportunity for us to work together. I believe you mentioned the camera system that was put in down at Washington Gardens. That's been utilized by our officers. And so there really has been a lot of cooperation between the Housing Authority and the Elkhart Police Department, so we've been very appreciative of that. One of the things I think that was overlooked, it's been talked about tonight, but one of the biggest assets that we have when it comes to these types of things, reporting and addressing concerns and issues that Councilman Hinkie brought up, which are valid concerns for any community. If you have drug activity, if you have some criminal activity going on in the community, my department wants to know about it no matter where it is. But one of the best community engagement points we've had are the residents. And we've been very fortunate, even down in Rosedale, people calling us responding to calls, going down there, addressing these issues, because the residents, like Councilwoman King talked about, if you live there, you don't want those things going on. If you have your children there, if your children are being babysat there, they don't want those things going on. So we've been very fortunate to be able to work with them. When you look at stats and numbers, we took about 70,000 calls between 2023 to year to date, so January 1, 23 to year to date. We look at Riverside, Rosedale, Washington Gardens, and Waterfall High Rise, just those are the bigger residence facilities that have residents there. Out of all of our drug arrests, they've equated to about 1.7% of all drug arrests for the city, which is a pretty low number. So when you start to look at those calls for service, even just calls for service in general, you're talking about a 4.2%. So we're looking at like 96% of calls are somewhere outside at least those. We know there's a few more addresses that would qualify for HUD stuff, but out of the bigger residency, we start to look at some of those. So I just wanted to bring numbers. I know that some of these comments obviously can be emotional, but I also understand that once you have data behind it and you start to look at some of those things, that changes at least an idea. So I think for us as the police department to make sure that we're not only addressing, and hearing the concerns and needs of the council or the community, individually, that may look different for different members, whether it's the community or the council. So I want to make sure that we address those as much as possible.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate that.
My Community Crime Watch, is that what you're saying?
No, sir. It is Community Crime Map.
Map.com.
Yeah, .com. It actually says .-com. I'm not sure if you really need the hyphen, if it's a typo. But that's what I have. What I was able to click on that link, it sent me to LexisNexis.
Thank you, Chief.
Yes,
Any other reports from any other department heads? Thank you, Chief. Seeing none, there are no neighborhood association reports.
Yes.
Ms. King, do you have anything?
Pardon me?
Look at Ms. King.
No, other than, you can go ahead about our meeting Saturday, so.
Okay, yeah, I'd like to report for the Pierre Moran Neighborhood Association. Glad to see some of our members are in the house. And the Pierre Moran members, we attended the city's neighborhood meeting downtown Saturday from 10 to noon, along with a few other council people, and it was well attended. I was very impressed that more people are getting involved in their neighborhoods. More people want to form neighborhood associations in their areas, because when we know each other and our neighbors, I think it just gives us a better sense of security. And on Saturday evening, one of our young people in our neighborhood was in the Junie B. Jones play in Goshen, Indiana. So some of us from the neighborhood association went over to see her perform in that play, and she was glad we were there. And it's just one of those things that come around when you working with people in your neighborhood. And we like to, and everybody in our neighborhood, we're happy what the police are doing in our neighborhood. We have the police car presence that's slowing everybody down in our neighborhood. So a lot of good things are going on in our neighborhood association. We just encourage everybody to get involved in their neighborhoods and make a positive difference. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Hickey.
Thank you, Chief. For East Lake Homeowners Association, one thing I know that we've talked to neighbors about, one, upkeep of properties, of course, for values, education and crime. So if we would go to the FBI website, I'm looking at it now, it lists Elkhart as an F in crime and an F rating in significant crime. So again, when we're trying to sell property, we're trying to build forward, we have to recognize what ails us. And I'm just asking that we play along with that. I hope my neighbors aren't moving out, and I hope that we can address all those things that make a community more livable, more desirable. We just have to be real about what it is, what is acceptable and what is not. And it takes all of us to stand up to whatever that number is. We can't make feel-good stuff. We all have some of those. That's got to be numerical. It's got to be data-driven. And I think we can all get together and get it done. But it's been a bunch of years that we've been talking about this very thing.
Thank you. At this point, I'd like to open up to the privilege of the floor. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak on anything coming before the jurisdiction of the Elkhart City Council? Please sign in, state your name, please.
Signed in already. Good evening. My name is Loretta Bingham. I reside at 215 East Indiana Avenue. And I also came tonight to address my concern regarding several posts made by Councilman Hinkie on his personal Facebook page. Councilman Hinkie made several negative posts about our mayor, his fellow councilmen and women, as well as the south side of Elkhart, which we all know has a large Hispanic and African American presence. On March 1st, he posted, "Guess whose house has your money being spent on streets, sidewalks, and fence?" Yes, Mayor Rod has the city putting curbs and sidewalks in an area that services 2 houses, his being one. Do you know of any streets outside of Rod's that needs replacing? Maybe a sidewalk or a curb. Just pointing out that he puts his street first, his neighborhood as a priority over yours. Side note, I recall work being done all over this city last year, including the north side of Elkhart, but that wasn't mentioned, and Mayor Robertson doesn't live all over the city of Elkhart. Marsha Bechtel then responded, "What street is this on?" And I'd like to put the emphasis on street. And the councilman quickly posted our mayor's home address, the place where his family lives. No thought about the possibility of putting them in danger. Or then again, maybe you did. Our councilman failed to mention that the work was being done on Lambert, which is a side street close to the mayor's home and not the mayor's personal property. On December 29th, the councilman posted the most derogatory thing that he could ever post about one of the city's department heads. It's almost as though he has no heart concerning certain classes of people, regardless of their race. Then on March 5th, he made the following post. "Did you know that Washington Gardens and Waterfall Housing are the biggest drug houses in Elkhart? They take our," and I'd like to know who "our" is, "earnings to live there, and then," and I put this in quotation marks, "but dope to live on." I have no idea what he was trying to say there. "And question why their kids end up in jail. The easiest access to drugs is in government housing. Did you know that? Where are the rules, laws, and investigations?" Side note, Walnut Trails is also government subsidized community that accepts Section 8, and it's in Councilman Dinkey's district, but he doesn't mention them at all. Could it be possible that Councilman Hinkie speaks from experience and maybe a previous homeowner of rental property that was raided in or around 2014 on West Franklin Street? Also, per the Elkhart Police Department, there are no facts that Washington Gardens and Waterfall Gardens are the biggest drug properties in Elkhart, nor are there more kids that end up in jail from there. When I screenshot this post and put it on my page, he chose to backpedal and say that these posts are statistics, and this is why the Elkhart Police Department wants a substation there. If that be the case, Why not post this as being statistics instead of coming across as your own personal truth, rather than have somebody to finally call you on your offensive post? I just want to say this. Since I believe in freedom of speech as well as anybody else, I just wonder if I took this post about Washington Gardens and Waterfall Towers that you made, Councilman Hickey, and I attached it on a piece of paper with you as the author of it, and I put your address of 1752 Crabtree Lane or 333 West Mishawaka Road on it, like you did our mayors, and I gathered all of my friends and family to go to every address that's listed in public housing in Elkhart, and I taped it to everybody's front door that lived in public housing, I wonder how those residents and the people who love them would feel. Sometimes there's a cost for freedom of speech. Thank you for your time. Again, my name is Loretta Bingham, and I stand by everything I just said.
Here's business cards if you'd like to hand them out to anyone. My phone and address is
Point
right
of
on.
order.
Save you a lot of time.
All right, all right. Privilege of the floor.
Hello, my name is Veronica Donaldson. I live at 1123 Orange Street. I actually did not come here to speak today, but after listening to some of the things that were said, I just felt like I need to have my say as well. I have lived in Elkhart for 62 years. I am 62 years old. I have an associate's degree in business. I have a bachelor's degree in organizational management. I retired after 36 years from working for Elkhart County, and I retired as the first deputy Elkhart County assessor. I'm not saying that to brag. I'm saying that to say I am a child of public housing. I grew up in public housing. My pastor always says this, and I understand what he means. I didn't know I was poor until I got grown. We had a fellowship in public housing. My grandmother helped take care of people in public housing. My mother was a single mother. She retired from the city of Elkhart working for the street department, and when she started, she was the only woman that worked for the street department, drove a snowplow. My mama was bad. And I say that to say this. I retired from the county. Now I work for Elkhart Housing Authority. I work in the HCV department, which is a housing choice voucher department. Last week, I interviewed a grandmother who is taking care of 2 of her grandchildren. Her oldest granddaughter is a student at Loyola College in Chicago, majoring in, I think it's some kind of biology or whatever. She is going to become a doctor. There are some very good stories of people from public housing. All the people in public housing, or most people in public housing, want are the same opportunities that everybody else has. Unfortunately, this city does not have enough low-income public housing. And I know the city's working on it. I've seen some of the progress that has been made, and I smile about it. We need more, but there are good people in public housing, and we do screen for felonies. We do screen for drugs. But you know what? There are bad people everywhere you go. And like Councilwoman King said, for some of our children to hear what is being said about public housing and them is, it's sad, it's disheartening, because I see mothers and fathers that come in every day that are trying to make a better life for their children. And my mom always taught me that if you can't say something good, don't say anything at all. The council is in a position to affect lives, to make lives better for everybody in this city. And I would hope instead of downgrading the city where you live and where you make your living, that you would do more to build up the city of Elkhart. Thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone else?
Patty Cripe, Bristol, Indiana. Do I need to give you my street address?
In Bristol, you're fine.
I'm good. Okay. Mr. Hinkie, I just want to remind you of the murder, or the murder that happened at Maple Lane Apartments years ago, and I don't remember the man's name except that his ex-wife lived in East Lake Estates, where you live. And I also want to remind you of the disappearance of Ada Herodine in 1985, right down the street from where you live. So it's not just one specific area in Elkhart, Indiana. It is a lot of areas everywhere that we have battles with all sorts of people. I managed subsidized housing for 2 years in my career, and I had to screen for those that did not, whether they had employment, all that. You know what? They lied to me on theirs. They told me they weren't working, and then they moved somebody else in with them, and they were. So all sorts of stuff can happen despite what you may try to screen for. But I just wanted to remind you of what happened not far from where I grew up in your neighborhood as well. Thank you.
Is anyone else in the audience? Anyone else? Saying, step right up.
Jason Moreno, 315 South Riverside Drive. Thank you all. Well, first off, I wanted to, anybody else from the Housing Authority here? Because thank you. I had the privilege of serving as a commissioner on that under the Neese administration for 3 years, and we got a lot of good work done there over that time. And it's just like anything else in the city where if it's lacking resources, it's not going to thrive. We had a horrible situation one summer when I was there. My neighbor was actually gunned down in the gardens. No arrests were ever made. And I tried to do what we could, you know, my family tried to do what we could for the neighbor family and, you know, their kids, help them through this, you know, the ways that we could. But it was horrible, and that was a call to action. And we organized. We organized well. And we went into the gardens with a plan, and we went in there with people, and we went in there with the resources. And Chris Snyder was the chief of police, and he could confirm the figures, but we dropped crime 50% in one summer. This is something that can be repeated in various forms throughout the city with an investment in good community organizers, something that the city is not short on at all, but none of which I see employed by the city to do work. Schenck, Taylor, myself, the list goes on and on. We can do big things, but we're not doing it. But we're going to spend $600,000 so we can have noontime organ shows at the Lerner. I think this is just something that we're not thinking about. Do we really want better neighborhoods? Because where's the money to do it? We just don't care to do that. The most effective dollar for dollar, pound for pound investment you can do to reduce crime is community organizing. It's not additional police officers. The information's out there. I did bring the docket, but that's where the money's at. That's how you get your pound for pound resolution. I went to go to Martin's the other day to get cat litter, and the next 15 minutes, I'm sticking myself between somebody having a mental health crisis who's violent and the public waiting on EPD to arrive because we're short officers. That circles back to what Councilor Henke was saying about what do we do with this, and I found an old article when that house that was mentioned was raided earlier that he owned, and we can't control landlords. The Housing Authority does amazing things with what they're given. They're given ancient buildings with ancient layouts that other cities have figured out are garbage, like Chicago. You don't see Cabrini Greens, you don't see Robert Taylor. They destroyed them because they know if you hyper-concentrate people with a low SES into a very tall building, you're going to have lots of problems. Well, I know a lot of people from Robert Taylor and Cabrini found their way over here because we still have these antiquated buildings. And we have these antiquated structures, and it's all been proven to fail, and we're 20 years behind everybody else on that, and we're wondering what's going on. We've got to be able to find a way to work with them to get them better facilities, scattered sites, not hyper-concentrated sites, and that goes back to the rest of the housing issue. But long story short, it's there. It's, you know, community organizing. It's investing in people. It's getting people who are trained, who know the processes, procedures, know the sociology, the psychology behind it, have the connections to get things done. You want to get it cut, that's how we're going to cut it, folks. And it's real simple. But again, ever since this city decided to get rid of McFarland, I have not seen anything comparable in efforts or attempts to replace him. You need 10 of them. You need 10. You need a staff. You're short 25 officers. You should have 10 community organizers sitting out in the fields, fomenting these relationships, working to be catalysts, and improving our city so we have things that we can be proud of and work behind. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience? Anyone else?
Hi, Council. My name is Elizabeth Lewis. I reside at 173 Bank Street over in East Jackson. And I don't want to change the subject. I feel really bad because now I feel like this is a trivial thing for you guys because we have really
Speak your mind. Speak your mind.
great things happening. I want to talk about the chicken ordinance in the city of Elkhart.
Did you say chicken?
The chicken ordinance.
Okay. Just wanted to be sure I heard you
You're in
correctly.
for a ride, so.
I'm all ears now.
My family has decided to start a garden this year. I have 2 young kids. I have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. They're adorable. My husband is here as well. He's cute too, I guess. We decided to try to help combat the rising prices of produce in our area. Indiana has seen a 2.5 price increase already this year, and last year already it was rising to 5.8%. This led us to play with the idea of possibly raising hens. I grew up on a farm, and so I kind of love the sustainability of it, the self-sufficiency of it. But after research, we discovered that in our area, East Jackson area, and the city of Elkhart, it is illegal as per Section 7 of the city ordinances to keep farm animals. Although I can understand why raising like a cow or a horse here would not be attainable, I don't see why raising a few hens for this would be an issue. As per the City of Elkhart website, it states, the City of Elkhart offers a vibrant, diverse, and unique community. In Elkhart, things are built, opportunity abounds, and our community offers great experiences in recreation, arts, and culture. And when I hear that mission statement, I'm hopeful and excited because it makes me think, why couldn't we have chickens? Why couldn't I be able to have hens? If opportunity does abound, then having a few hens to produce eggs for our families is a wonderful idea. If Elkhart really does offer great experiences in recreation, arts, and cultures, then it should allow us to embrace the education we can receive in raising and producing our own food. And I would argue raising hens makes for a wonderful recreational activity as well. In Goshen, Ordinance 4987, amend requirements for keeping chickens, was passed by the Goshen Common Council on October 30th, 2018. In South Bend, they also passed one where you must have a permit required, but you are allowed to have 6 or fewer hens within city limits. And maybe you won't be the first surrounding city to allow that to happen, but if you choose to allow it now, you certainly will not be the last. This could open the door for other areas to follow suit. We want to bring more families to Elkhart. I love our city, and I know you all do too, or you wouldn't be in the seats that you're sitting in right now. You could oversee what is or isn't allowed. For example, the size of a coop, no roosters, they're loud. I think we can all agree there that that might not be a good idea. And how many hens someone within our limits may keep at one time. There are already over 120 signatures on a petition for allowing chickens within Elkhart, Indiana city limits. And it's continuing to rise. Actually, today we've gotten 28 more signatures just today, and I will continue to fight for that as well. So many other families would benefit from this, and I think that's evident. Not only does raising hens allow for lower food costs and less waste, but it also is an opportunity to learn where food is coming from. The education behind it alone is extremely beneficial for the younger generations to experience. Most consumers are at least 3 generations removed from the farm. I know this is a trivial issue for some of you. I feel very silly standing up here right now. Fine. Thank you. And many of you may even see this as a waste of time or that you have plenty of bigger things to solve, and I know you do. Your time is important. Thank you for your service. But for families like mine and many others, you have the ability to grant us the choice of raising hens to help feed our families and neighbors. We can educate ourselves and others about where certain food comes from and help make Elkhart City a place where families want to flock instead of having to give up the city life just to raise a few hens. We love the diversity and unique community our city provides. You said it yourself, Mayor Robertson. You are here to serve us in the city to make it a better place to live and to work. A few hens could help your cause. Thank you for taking the time to listen today. Also, I highly encourage you guys to check out the petition. I'd love to show it to you, and thanks.
Thank you
for your
very
time.
much. Thank you, thank you,
Yes,
thank you,
thank you. Really consider it.
Thank you. I think I'm going to sign that. Who wants to take that assignment on? Yeah, I will. Yeah. Okay.
Hello, my name is Barbara Payton. I live at 405 West Plain Avenue. I'm here today regarding the birds. My neighbors has an excessive amount of bird feeders. And the city, this has been going on for 8 months now, 8, 9 months. We've lived in our house or our home on Blaine Avenue has been in our family over 50 years. Never had any issues with any of the neighbors. And actually, it's one of the few nice neighborhoods that's left on the south side. You know, people have been there for a while. 8 months ago, my neighbors moved from North Carolina, came in, and she decided she wanted to put 9 bird feeders on the other side of my driveway. And the birds would shoot across my top step to get to the feeders. They would have conference on my balcony of my porch, on my swing, crap on my handrail, poop on the porch, down the sidewalk. I contact the city. And I know anytime that you deal with government, it's not a fast process. I worked in government most of my career. And one of the things I was going to, I'm a stickler for law. I believe in following laws. And that's how we all get along. I've never been incarcerated. I've never even visited anybody in jail. I just want to be a citizen, you know? And I just want my peace. So they moved in, and the first thing I did, I contacted Code. So Code kind of is an old expression, I'm old school. I was shuck and jive. It was a bunch of shucking and jiving going on. So from the time I reported it, which was in the last of July, and they finally wrote her a note October 12th. And in this note, or in this letter they sent her, they said that she had to remove the bird feeders because it was causing a nuisance to her neighbor's property. And then they also sent her a copy of the ordinance, which is into addition to the 9907, and is in the addition, and it's the part that's B15, which really refers to the public nuisance part of it, health issues or anything like that. But anyway, I do have copies for the council because I want to present this to the council, and just like me and other people who have lived here in this city, I get it. You know, and with these houses being so close in the city, it's kind of hard to turn it into the country or the county. And even the county have city ordinances pertaining to bird feeders. So one of the things I want to bring to the council attention before I say anything, one neighbor's action means that the problem is here to stay. Because if you allow everybody to have what they want throughout this city. And I may not like it. For me, she likes birds. And for me, I have a lot of health issues. Mine is merely health, you know, and to have all the X amount of poop everywhere from 9 bird feeders. And if that wasn't enough, over the weekend, she installed 2 more feeders in the back. And then she put a squirrel feeder on the tree lawn. After October 12th, when she first got the letter from code enforcement telling her to remove the feeders, something happened. Because by the time December got here, the code officer mentioned to me, I can't tell her where to put the feeders. She can put them anywhere she wants to. I said, what about my health? I can't tell you. I don't know what to do. Well, later on, and probably within the last 3 months, I've learned 2 important things. One thing, that the code officer should have never been assigned to that case for the mere fact that his wife likes birds. And then the second part, not only do she likes birds, she sells birds, she makes birds feeders, and she sells birds, she makes them and sell them. I would call that a conflict of interest. I told him, I said, you know what? All this time you finally felt in liberty to let me know that I've been wasting my time. I knew government worked slow, but I didn't realize that it would be slow just for them to tell me there's nothing I can do and deal with it. I want to address the council, and I have a question for each and every one of you. I have lived in my home for 40 years. I have birds every day, and for the last 8 months, they are all on top of my house. They're lining up in my gutters. They're pooping in my gutters, all over my shed. When it rains, it goes down in my soil. My house is completely just contaminated. It's not safe for me. It's not safe for my grandkids, my family. What is the city gonna do? I would like for you guys, not want, I would like for you guys to address the city ordinance, which pertains to the 9907, the public nuisance, and the article is B15, which clearly states, any matter which attracts or may attract rodents, insects, domestic or wild animals in such a manner as it creates a health hazard or unsanitary or dangerous condition. Also enclosed, I have a note from my physician. I want to know, what's the difference? Why is it not being enforced? Why am I made to live like this? And I'm going to leave this, you know, because I would like a response.
Would you leave it with Angie? She'll get,
With Angie?
yeah, she'll give all of us a copy of it.
But I really appreciate that you guys taking the time. And then again, just one more footnote. And that footnote is how the city official respond to will determine the legacy of Elkhart. Because you're going to have people like me that's going to leave. We have to have ordinance. You can't have it your way. You know, nobody, I don't get to have it my way either. But I do deserve peace and harmony, you know. I deserve that. I have worked, I've been a city, I have served my city well throughout my whole career. And now that I'm disabled, I'm not in any condition to clean up. I don't have the resources to pay someone to come in and clean up because she likes birds. And she works out of the house 8 hours a day. It's only feet from my driveway. So I want to say again, thank everyone. And if you haven't seen it, I did an interview with ABC 57 News, and it's called The Elderly Disabled Lady Burdened by the Neighbor's Bird. Take the time and please watch it. And you know, this should never happen to anyone in the city of Elkhart. And somebody, I don't know if the ball got dropped, but it shouldn't have taken 9 months. And I do have the copy of the letter that initially went out. But, you know, like I said, thank you very much, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to speak?
Hello, Council. Let me sign in. I'm Lori Harris, 2505 Greenleaf Boulevard. This is going to be a hard act to follow after chickens and I'm sorry about the birds at your house. But I would like to, I won't take much of your time, but I would like to go back to somewhat of a heavy subject that was brought up earlier about the social media posting and the difficulty that many of us in this room have experienced with being the target of untruths and personal attacks. And let me start by saying that personal attacks are never okay. And yes, I was the one that said, prove it to the mayor when he discussed his, the untruths that have been floating around social media. I didn't say it to challenge you, Mayor. I said it because truth, facts, and transparency always win. At the end of the day, truth, facts, and transparency always shine light on lies. So the reason I said that, and maybe out of line, I admit, is we can combat these personal attacks on social media with just speaking truth or coming with receipts. And so that's about the only defense we have. You heard Loretta speak truth tonight. You heard Patty speak truth tonight to some of these things. And all I will say is the personal attacks on many, many people in this room have to stop. They have to stop. Because as people who love this city, we are better than that. That's all.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Dear Council, my name is Reverend McNeil Stewart. I live at 932 Marco Avenue here in the city of Elkhart. I am here to address in concert with Ms. Loretta's comments, because she was the one who made me aware of Councilman Hinkey's comments on Facebook. As a target of social media lies, I can tell you personally how those things can be destructive, how they can take their toll on an individual and his family. As a proud person that was born in public housing in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, I want you to know that that's not a pipeline to prison. It's a lifeline for folks that are trying to live a better life. And what I would suggest that you might think about is that Jesus said, before you try to take the mote out of somebody else's eye, I would encourage you to look at the mote that's in your eye. There is crime, there are drugs that are part of this whole city. And your comments would have been a little more well put in perspective if you would have mentioned every other area where there are drugs going on. But there was no mention of other parts of the city that you mentioned. And so if we're going to look for solutions, let's look for solutions that help the whole city and not just target part of the city. I live there down the street from Washington Gardens. I am there a lot of times helping the people that need help in that area. And so if we're going to address the situations that are at any particular housing project, let's address the whole city's projects, wherever they are. There were no mention of trailer parks that are on the north side of the city, where a lot of drug traffic happens there. So I would just remind you to have a little perspective and look at the whole city. And before you try to correct what's going on in one part, let's look at correcting what goes on in every part. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to speak?
Name is Danny Brown, 1801 Stephen Avenue, Elkhart, Indiana, which I'm happy to be in Elkhart. And as the lady said a minute ago, so I'm not personally attacking anyone, but I have found out I was come here in 77. I stayed in the projects. And listening to what's going on, not only was the councilman and the city director, but neighbors, we all got involved in what was going on. Drugs is everywhere. I have been on, as you know, I'm a pastor and I go different places. And the places that we're targeting, there is drugs. But I could stand here and not pointing fingers and tell you I can go outside of the South Side and know houses and peoples and drugs there also, as he mentioned, the trailer parks and things. And to our mayor, you know, it makes me feel proud to drive down Pereira Street, see the construction that he's doing at his house. It made Pereira, now I'm looking at other houses that was mostly abandoned. People are getting out painting their houses. It takes one person to do something, and then everybody else will get involved in it. I don't know. I look at it this way, if he got receipts or not. He works every day. He can spend his money the way he wants to. And we should be proud he's fixing up his house. It makes me, and my councilman, when I moved over there on Stevenson Avenue, it was a lot of things going on. But I got with Mr. Fish, and we talked. Yes, police was riding up and down the street over there all the time. You don't see that now. But the neighbors got together and started working together. And I want to say, as I go to my seat, finger pointing will not get us out of the rut that we are in. So let us work together. I did read the article, and I wasn't pleased with the article, but I held my peace with the article because I know what we're going through now. But let's us, as a councilman, let's work together. Let's put dominating one neighborhood and look at the neighborhood as because this is what? Elkhart, Indiana. So if one neighborhood is down, it's all of us, right? So what we gonna do to fix it? What are we gonna do to fix it? You got a chief of police. He gave you the statistics of what's going on, the crime, what places there. All I can say is we done in other cities. Where there's crime rates high, get to it. As my member said a minute ago, and I said it, I tell them at church all the time, I didn't realize I was poor until I got grown. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
My name is Christy Matthews. I reside at 56076 Outer Drive, Elkhart, Indiana.
I'm sorry, what was the street again?
Outer Drive.
Howard?
Outer, O-U-T-E-R.
Oh,
Drive.
sorry.
In regards to what you posted, I am not an original Elkhart resident. I'm here from Illinois. I've been in your town for about 6 years. Before I came here, I was told that Elkhart was a great place to live. Families will thrive. I can grow, my children will grow, okay? After being here a year, my 17-year-old son, he was 16 at the time, I'm sorry, was murdered over by Washington Gardens. I don't live over by Washington Gardens, okay? I have, by right to myself, all opportunity to be hateful towards the area, to be hateful towards the people, but I choose not to. I started a nonprofit organization. I go out into Washington Gardens on a regular basis. I feed the children, I talk to the families, and I uplift that part of the community. So if anybody had anything negative to say, sir, I'm not sure that it should have came from you in the manner in which you spoke on that social media. If you want to see change out there, then maybe you should get up and go out there and walk, march, give things out, talk to some of the families, ask them what they need. We don't need to come up here and stand to you and tell you what they need when you have 2 feet and you are able to get up and go out there and ask them what they need. You are able to make a difference, and that's what you should do. Versus using your platform as negativity, you should use it as positivity and uplift those people out there in that community. I do not like what you said. I don't feel like you had a right to say that. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience? Anyone else?
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Seymour, and I now live in Osceola. I don't live in Elkhart, but I do have some interests here. I feel like everyone here, I can't speak for anyone but myself, is expressing hurt and frustration. You as a council 2 years ago posted and made a resolution championing anti-bullying, where you lectured and pontificated and said, told junior high kids how to act after the death of a child by suicide. And from what I've seen from this council and the council before, it's disgusting, the behavior that's happening in this city. I'm hurting for these people. I've been hurt. I've had people say terrible things about me. If you don't know, I was a dispatcher for this city in 1998 when 6 children and a man burned to death in a house. And I was one of 2 dispatchers working that night. I took every single phone call that came in. I arranged for all of their body bags. I heard them screaming to death. And not only were we given no support and no mental health support or any help or encouragement, we were discouraged from ever reaching out to anyone. And I don't like what's been said about me and mental health program. It's disgusting, and I'll wait for my apology. These people are hurting. There's other families hurting. You guys made a promise to this community to stop bullying each other and to work with everyone here. You were elected. Fulfill your responsibilities. Fulfill the duties and the promise that you made to that child.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Anyone else? Seeing none. We're going to return to the council floor, scheduling of committee meetings. Are you Public Works and Improvement? Okay, that might be the hand one. You might want to call me. Acceptance of communications. Can I get a motion to accept communications?
So move.
Got a motion by everybody. Second by Ms. King. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion for adjournment.
So move.
Second, aye. We're adjourned.